Welcome to the Tough Decisions Network for Entrepreneurs. I'm Dan Hanford, and my wife, Danae, and I interview successful people sharing stories behind tough decisions that they've had to make along their journey as an entrepreneur. Before we get started, let's hear from one of our sponsors. Have you ever thought about investing in real estate, but find yourself so busy that you don't have time for it? Do you have FOMO, which is the fear of missing out? At HanfordCapital.com, we help investors with passive real estate investments that project better returns than traditional investment vehicles such as the stock market. If you'd like to find out more about our passive real estate investments, visit HanfordCapital.com. That's HANDFORD Capital.com. We will jump on a call with you to discuss your investment goals and to see if our investments are a good fit for you. This advertisement is not to be construed as an offer or recommendation to buy or sell a security. Visit HanfordCapital.com.
Today on the podcast, we welcome Jason Newmark. He's the founder of the Newmark Group and the co-founder of Mompreneurs. He is also a winner of Shark Tank and appeared on the cover of the Entrepreneur magazine. So Jason, thank you very much for being on with us today. We're looking forward to talking with you.
Thanks very much for having me.
Can you dive into a little bit more about your background as an entrepreneur and what your current focus is?
Yeah, sure, Dan. I started my first business actually when I was about 5 in South Africa on the campsites selling candle holders to the different sites for light. And then as in South Africa, I think, and probably a lot of the world, you go to school and you get stuck in what we call down here kind of the industrialization education, where entrepreneurship is not even mentioned. It's all about studying, getting a degree, and then going into the job world. So when I finished school, I actually went overseas for a few years and tried various different avenues, from selling oil paintings to working on yachts and a little bit of corporate, and then made the, not leap, but occurred to me that entrepreneurship, it was more coming into light down here, would be and is the correct thing for me. After doing that, at the moment, we working on a few startups, Mompreneurs being one of them, which will be an online platform for moms to start and run their own business, which is a huge problem down here in South Africa, and also following and giving them the easiest possible route to do it with less risk and the quickest way to kind of get their product into customers' hands. The other one we've started is called Future Proof, which architects futures through entrepreneurial education, which is predominantly aimed at schools, where we start very young with kids and start teaching them the principles on what it's like to start a business, and just getting them that hunger to start failing and start trying at a young age, because so often you get out of school and you have to learn these lessons. Whereas if you start young, by the time you get to out of school, you kind of practiced, and those risks are not as much. And then the other side project we've also got going on is Kidpreneurs, and that's actually founded by a 9-year-old. His name's Ruben Sinclair, where we are mentoring him and helping him help other kids. So they come up with projects in their communities, from recycling to other little businesses, which they then try and impart onto the disadvantaged communities here in South Africa.
So one question I have for you is about the thing that you won Shark Tank with, or the business or the idea or the product. Because a lot of people don't know this, but Shark Tank is not just in the United States. There's multiple versions of Shark Tank across the world, and there is actually a South Africa Shark Tank, correct?
Yes, yeah, that's it. Yeah, it was actually the first one. It was about 2 years ago. So yeah, everyone here used to always watch Dragon's Den. So when Shark Tank came around, it was a hit show, I think, during the seasons, which was great.
And what was the business or product that you presented that you won on the show?
Yeah, at that stage, it was with my business partner, and it was Africa's first online wedding planning platform. So it allowed couples from all around the world to plan their own wedding here in Southern Africa.
Well, that's pretty cool. So you guys didn't have anything like that before, or was it just something like a unique spin on the wedding planning platform?
Yeah, not in South Africa, we didn't. We had directories and things like that, but no kind of platform where it actually planned and gave you tips and advice. I think your one in America, which we found when we were looking at international competitors, was, I can't remember the name now, wedding Wedding Ink or Wedding Day. I can't remember it now. But there wasn't anything like it in South Africa or Africa at the time.
Well, obviously, you have a lot of experience as an entrepreneur and helping other entrepreneurs. Can you share with us a tough decision that really kind of sticks out to you that you feel like the listeners could really learn from?
Yeah, the toughest one would be for me is always choosing when you are starting a new venture or new startup is who to work with. Firstly, the people that surround you, your partners or employees if you do hire, and the partnerships and sources of people that you want to use. So if you need someone to do your website, it's finding the right people. And for me, that's always the toughest decision because that can have huge financial implications, especially if you're on the online side, especially with developers. That's been a huge, big mistake I've made a few times in the past. So for me, it's always comes down to the gut feel in the end now with practice and experience is, do they feel right? Can I work with them and will they be able to deliver on what we set out to do?
Do you have like a system or a process when you're trying to choose somebody who to work with? Because you're not necessarily talking about who to start a business with and be partners. Yeah. You're really kind of diving into, all right, we have, 5 different things we need to get done in the business. One person we need to hire to build the website. One person we need to hire to be able to clean the office when we're out of the office in the evenings. We need somebody to be able to, pick up the marketing and do some online campaigns. Yeah. And so trying to figure out who's going to do these various tasks instead of trying to do it all in-house. So do you have some sort of a system or a process, or do you do what you just said and just from the experience that you've had, you just kind of use this kind of gut feeling to know whether or not they might work or not?
Yeah, I don't know if it's a process. I think just from experience and your kind of intuition, do they feel right? Do they have that passion, that hunger? How do they sound? It all comes down to those little things, I think, in the end that makes me go with them would be the word. But
what was the worst person that you actually hired? Don't tell me their name, but just kind of the worst kind of hire that you made for this kind of thing. Because it sounds like in your voice that there's something hanging out there and lingering that you're kind of thinking about going, yep, that's the one that's the sore taste in my mouth.
Yeah, that would have to be our first developer. We actually, and second and third one at the time, we were very inexperienced in the online side, but we trusted them, paid them to do the site, and with all our savings and money we had at the time to start launching our site and developing it. And after like 3 months, nothing had happened, and 4 months, and it just kept lingering on and on and on, and nothing was really produced in the end. I think it was just a single page that they sent us. So that would definitely be the hardest knock that I've.
What were they developing for you? Just a website?
No, they were meant to be our first developers on developing the wedding platform, and it just didn't. There wasn't anything really, and that's a lot of the time is vetting good developers, which I found is very, very important because there's so many people saying they can do this, they can do that, and don't actually deliver on it.
Through that experience, do you have an idea of how much money that costs you? I know probably time is the biggest thing, but do you have a number that you kind of have in your head as far as what that costs you and that how much that lesson cost?
Yeah, well, in the end, going through probably about 600,000 Rand. So in American dollars, you would divide that by an easier number would be 10. So it'd be about $60,000. So overall, over about a 2-year period. So we were literally down and out. Now we didn't have a site. We had put most of our money in the development side. And that's funny enough, when Shark Tank, the show came on, we were like, well, what are we going to do? And then the show happened and we applied and then managed to secure 2 sharks. So it was very good timing because we were at that stage, we were using our skills to try and make money to get cash flow basically in any other way. So my partner was doing website design. We were doing events, any little side businesses to kind of keep the main focus of the wedding thing going.
So you got the shark investment before the business was actually going then? Or
yes.
It was just an idea?
So it was very, very risky because it was mainly just an idea. We had the main thing with investors and what they invested in is we had a lot of traction. Besides having a website, so basically without even having an MVP, we had problem solution fit, which means we had about 10,000 vendors in the country already signed up and on board. So if the site had launched, they would be ready. And we had about over 400 couples also all signed up and wanting to use the site when it did launch. So it was mainly the traction that we had and us partly. They said afterwards they really believed in us and we came across in the right manner. And they thought we would be a good fit.
That's very interesting. It's a great story. And I wanted to see if you have any other type of tough decisions that the listeners can learn from today.
Yeah, the toughest decisions, what I always say in an article I wrote recently actually is what we call putting petrol in your car. So as a startup, cash flow is always the number one thing that you try and focus on, especially in your first year. So the toughest decision I always find is what to spend the money on and who the people are. So those two tough decisions come hand in hand is what am I going to spend my money on? What is going to get me there quicker with less risk and give me the best possible result? So always comes down to, I think, cash flow at the beginning and making sure you've got petrol in your tank, as you say, because you can have the smartest car, you can be driving a Ferrari and a Beetle, but if you don't have petrol in your Ferrari, it's not going anywhere.
Ventures that you have with the mompreneur and the kidpreneur, you had mentioned that you're kind of helping these people that want to be in business with those decisions. So what have you found is their biggest need and how are you meeting that with those new ventures?
The biggest need problem would be is where to start. And it's just a bit overwhelming for people. There hasn't really been in the past a clear system. There's just too many decisions to make and it's often too risky and they feel they always have to put money into it. But what we've been doing is following exactly almost the lean methodology with the one-page business plan broken up into the 9 segments and following that system of the customer development process, which is all about, continually getting out of the building, asking your potential customers, what is your problem worth solving, and iterating. So it's a continuous build, measure, loop cycle. So that we found is the easiest for moms and kids to understand in a very simple way, teaching them activities and exercises that they can relate to, like the low-hanging fruit we do with the kids, teaching them how to get customers, go for the quickest apples. So it's just trying to break down all these, the stigma of having to write business plans and you have to do 101 things when you break it down into these 9 segments on the page and work through it and iterate in a, circular format, like I mentioned. It makes it a lot more easy and understandable and less riskier so before you even get to building your product, you've got enough validated learning from these customers to then build your MVP and start building that traction early on.
So do they come to your website with an idea already and you're just helping them flesh that out? Or do sometimes they even come with, okay, I want to be in business, but I really don't know what to do?
Yeah, a lot of the time, if they don't, say they're supporting a family and they don't have an idea, but they do want to start their own business, the process from the beginning, it starts with ideas, finding your passions or skills, start looking for problems in your community or around you. I always say moms have actually got such a great network at schools. They're so busy, they can wear so many different hats that they can spot. If they start looking properly through the process, they can start finding problems that are worth solving for people around them and using those skills and passions that they have with the time that's available to them, because that's often a problem with them is how can they fit it in.
So what have you developed over the years of the decisions that you've made and now helping other people to make? What strategies or techniques have you developed to make these difficult decisions?
The first thing I do is with any tough decision is I try and remove myself from the situation, because a lot of the time a problem or tough decision confronts you and you become consumed with it, almost tunnel vision. And often when I kind of take myself out of the situation and view it from a kind of higher view or aerial view, I can look at it more clearly and in a calmer light make a decision. But if I can't, then the first thing I always do is, depending on the tough decision, is always ask for advice from a mentor or a person I know who specializes in the field, or if it's a relationship issue, ask someone I know who's a relationship expert. So I always try not to panic and just get into a calm state, almost a meditative state where you're not consumed and focusing entirely on the problem, but rather on the 360-degree view of the problem.
And what would you recommend to our listeners as a book or a resource that maybe has affected the way you make decisions or the way you run your business?
Yeah, the one definitely is Running Lean by Ash Moira, which I actually read a few months ago, and which is what I'm using for myself and running through all our businesses, purely because it makes decision-making and tough decisions a lot easier and step by step. So a lot of the time we think we need to make this decision now, or we need to do this, or we need to launch this campaign. But what the book does is, like it says, it iterates from plan A to a plan that works. So it kind of tells you what decisions you should be making depending on what stage you are in your startup phase or process.
So I want to shift gears here just a little bit, Jason, and I want to talk a little bit about the money that you've made up to this point as an entrepreneur and some of the things you've spent that money on. Is there a really exotic place that you've traveled or an extravagant item that you've purchased with the money that you've made up to this point as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, the best place would have to be recently in December. My partner and I, Lana, went to Madagascar, which is an island off the coast of Africa. And it was by far the best trip, best money, or what most well-spent money that I've ever done. It was literally just completely back to basics. We were on a remote island with no electricity. It was all just solar and living off almost the land. You know, we would go fishing in the morning, and hopefully we would see a boat where we could buy food. And yeah, it was very simple, but it was just remarkable.
Well, it sounds like it's a lot of fun and to go to a remote island, but was there any internet connection there or cell phone towers?
No, there wasn't any. So
that would be the problem for me, Jason, is I've got to have some sort of connection to the outside world.
That's what I thought as well. I thought things are going to fall apart. Like, I'd left people in charge to run things, and the first few days was pretty hectic. It was, okay, what's going on? Maybe I could walk. And I started walking around the island on the beach. Hopefully I would find a bar. But after that, that's what I mean. We think we always have to, but just switching off like that for a few days, it was remarkable. And just the rejuvenation and that just living naturally, as they say, on a hut on the beach. And yeah, we also thought it would be hard, but it was, just absolutely magical.
So what's the next item on your bucket list right now of where you want to travel?
My next item, funny enough, would be going back there, maybe buying a little piece of land on the island and actually living there and still pursuing my passion now of helping others start their own business. So it would be setting up a little school on the island and teaching them the skills that we're doing here, just over there, really, just being disconnected and kind of remotely being there.
Now, come on, you have to tell me that you wouldn't at least try to sneak in a sat phone or something like that, right?
I think I might try to, or set up a little beacon on another little island, so I could quickly go there and do something. Yeah.
Well, Jason, I really do appreciate your time being on the podcast with us today. How can the listeners reach out to you if they want to get some more information about you and try to follow you some more?
Yeah, they can just email me directly at info@newmarkgroup.co.za.
Okay, great. Well, I'll also include that in the show notes too.
Yeah, from there, we can ask for Skype and contact numbers and however they want to communicate.
Okay, awesome. And for those of you who are listening, you want to get a copy of the show notes, you can go to toughdecisions.net and look up this episode, and we will include all that information in there so that you can have access to be able to reach out to Jason whenever you need to. Again, thank you so much for being with us, Jason. Look forward to having you on a future podcast. Hope you have a good rest of your day.
Great. Thanks very much, guys. Thanks for having me. I'll chat to you soon.
All right. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to the Tough Decisions Network. Be sure to visit toughdecisions.net to gain access to show notes for this episode and to join our free weekly entrepreneur email where we will send you news about the latest technology for your business, inspiring quotes, and the latest books for entrepreneurs. That's toughdecisions.net.